This is the Ogden Fairplay Fire Safety Council. We hold our meetings every third Wednesday of the month. Disregard anything you might have seen in the email that said the third Tuesday because your chair had brain pain one night, and Tuesday on the first flyer that went out. So please ignore that. It is the third Wednesday of every month. We hold our meetings here, and we're happy to have all of you join. So we are calling this meeting to order. Everybody who had the email invite should have gotten our council agenda, our meeting minutes from our last meeting, and our treasurer's report. So our meeting tonight is abbreviated in terms of our business. We're not going to hold much of our business meeting because we have two really great speakers that we want to hear from tonight. Before we start, I do want to, last meeting, we accepted 3 new council members, and I'm going to call them out again because we're super happy they all be back. Annette Greeno.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Somerset neighborhood that we have. Scarrett also in the back. Good to have some interest back in the Fire Safety Council. So we're very, very excited to have those folks with us. And as I mentioned, we also added the Somerset area. So the area kind of between Sandridge, kind of between Grizzly Flat, at the end of Ockham Fairplay, is now part of the Ockham Fairplay Fire Safety Council. So we're happy to have them aboard with us. For anybody interested in the map is in progress. I'm working with the El Dorado County Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resilience. Richie Galvin does our maps for us, and we're adjudicating all our borders. Now that borders are important, parcels are important for Firewise and getting insurance discounts, we're going through and cleaning up everybody's borders. So that's what's happening right now, and I hope to have an adjudicated map for our next meeting for all of you to look at. So thanks for being patient on that, and we will get that out to everybody. So I'm super excited tonight to have with us Brian Mullins from the El Dorado County Department of Transportation to give us an update on what's going on with roads, and Mark Egbert from the El Dorado and Georgetown Regional Conservation District, who does a lot of work in our area on roads, road clearance, road maintenance, vegetation maintenance along roads. I'll get it right. Thanks. So they're here to give us an overview on what's going on in South County. So I'm really excited that all of you are here. Our ground rules, as always, please mute your cell phones so that these folks can have unimpeded discussion with us. Common conversational courtesy. I know folks are sometimes wound up about roads and potholes and things like that. This is not the time to have that kind of conversation. Please hold that for a later date. Be candid, seek to understand, and we're here to have a good time. So humor is always accepted, but please mute your phones. For those of you who are joining us via Zoom, please mute your Zoom so that we don't get any feedback. If you're going to ask a question, please use the raise hand function, and we have folks who are managing that here in the room, and we'll call you out. In the room, if you have a question at the appropriate time, let them get through their presentation, and then we'll take questions. The folks online can't hear you unless you stand up so that the microphone can have an unimpeded view of your voice, so to speak. So please stand up, say your name. And if you didn't sign in the back of the room before you leave, please sign in and join our mailing list. So with that, super excited. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Mullins.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the invite to come out and speak tonight. Just one correction, there's one good speaker tonight. It's gonna be Mark. Lower your expectations. I've been with counting for 34 years in the road division. I now position as deputy director of maintenance and operations. One of my core duties is establishing what we're going to do next. Where are we going to spend the budget? We usually 2 years ahead of time is what 2 years ago, we identified our projects for 2024. So we know what we're going to do next year. Slight changes. One of the examples is Mount Auckham. We had identified Pleasant Valley to Four Corners for a new overlay. Much needed. There's a lot of alligators, a lot of potholes, areas all the way out to the county line. We about 3-4 weeks ago, we were notified by PG&E that they want to underground that section from Pleasant Valley to at least Grizzly Flat, Bucks Bar intersection. We moved the project to Four Corners out to the county line of River Pines for this year. So if you'd heard previously that we were going to do the section to the north, we're actually doing the section out to the county line from Four Corners out. So that'll take place this year. You've seen the brushing activity already taking place. That's the first step, followed by roadside ditching, potential culvert replacement. If we have identified culverts that are either near the end of their lifespan, we'll replace those. After that, the contractor that was awarded is Doug Bierkamp, so we're working with someone local. A lot of competition there. It was like, I think on a $6.2 million project, they were awarded. They won that by $16,000. So in our world, that's super close. But working with Doug Bierkamp Engineering, they're a great company to work with. They definitely like working in the hometown. So don't have a date yet on when that's going to begin. It's going to be sometime after June or July 1st is when that project will start. So you'll have a new road from Four Corners out to the county line. The following year, after PG&E completes their undergrounding, we'll do the section out to Pleasant Valley. So that's the big one that's coming up. Brushing projects that have been identified. The number one project that I have on my list is going to be Outingdale from E16 into where it turns private. So that is coming up. Currently, our contractor will begin work on Cold Springs Road from Placerville out to Coloma. And then the next project is going to be Outingdale. So we will widen back as much as possible. I believe all of that in there is prescriptive right-of-way versus actual own right-of-way. So we usually just top of the slope to the toe of the slope is generally using fences as guidelines. So we can get the equipment in there. We can do the ditching and perform a upcoming surface treatment on Outingdale. We don't like to leave something hanging out there. You see, we've done Bucks Bar, we've done Pleasant Valley, so we try to tie all that in and not leave something behind. Past projects that you may have seen, you've probably seen the brushing on Pleasant Valley Road. You've seen the brushing on Bucks Bar. Sand Ridge has been brushed, and then we still have some more to do on Mount Auckham, but that'll be done this year as well. Cedar Ravine was recently done in the last few years. So we're really focused on the main arterials. How do we get people out of an area during an emergency, like the Caldor fire? It's probably our most recent one that is all in our minds on this side of the county. So it's really important to get people ingress, egress. We want to get the fire equipment in and get it out. So, you know, the brushing opens up the area. Hopefully it reduces. I mean, we've all seen the people trying to evacuate Paradise. That was really an intense situation up there. Hopefully the brushing will reduce some of that, and it's all going to depend on the fire weather and what's, you know, what the winds are doing, et cetera, fire behavior. I think for my, I believe my good friend Mark Almer is online. Cosumnes Mine Bridge is going to, it's a wooden bridge that we lost during the Caldor fire. We finally have funding from FEMA to replace that, and there's a section of guardrail out there, a big concrete retaining wall, and that guardrail is getting replaced also. Sand Ridge, this doesn't necessarily apply to Mount Auckham, but there is on the west side of Sand Ridge, there's a very, very sharp S turn. There's a giant oak tree, real sharp turn, very difficult. Say if they are bringing in a dozer on a low bed, getting the bigger equipment in for a fire like that. We're doing a curve correction. We're straightening it out. We're working with a property owner that has donated the property. We're in the process of finalizing that, getting his signature on that, so we'll be able to get that curve straightened out. From the engineering side, which is a different group, but within DOT, the Bucksbar Bridge, approximate start date is November of 2025. Newtown Road, if you guys take that in, there's a small bridge that is below Fort Jim. It's kind of a skew. It's a little difficult coming down off that hill. The start date I was given is April of 2025. So maybe we've all seen the site distance improvement at Cedar Ravine in Pleasant Valley that was just recently completed. That was on the engineering side. And Oak Hill is getting a bridge replacement also, and that's currently in process. So other than that, that's about all I have for updates out in the South County. We continue to monitor the Grizzly Flat area. We have some road issues that keep popping up due to all the truck traffic, the debris haul, the logging, et cetera, that continues to this day. The debris side is done, but they still continue to log that area. So interesting fact, we spent, I think it was 2.1 million just fixing the failures on String Canyon. Of course, FEMA came in and promised the world, and oh yeah, we'll take care of you. We're on our second denial letter. So you've got $0. So that was out of pocket. That hit the budget pretty hard. But it's been a difficult haul with the results of the Caldor fire. You know, a lot of sediment issues up in Tahoe that we've had from runoff up there, and we continue to see road problems up in the Grizzly area, and we're trying to keep up on that the best that we can. So, any questions?
So Brian, how many miles of roadway do you manage in the county?
1,085.54, I think is that. We just did an update to the state, and I believe that was the current. We added one road down in Eldorado Hills, which bumped it up like a mile, 1.8 miles or something like that.
So there's a lot of roadway in the county that you're responsible for. And how do you go about prioritizing work to be done?
So my staff, my Tahoe superintendent, and we go all the way up to South Lake Tahoe. We butt up against the city, and then all the way over to the West Shore. So I have a Tahoe superintendent, I have a West Slope superintendent, and we sit down with, and then there's a couple of road supervisors that we sit down and we look at. It's called a PCI rating, this pavement condition index. So it's our lab. We have a we have a lab at DOT, and during their winter months, we'll go out and inspect roads. We have to inspect so many lane miles per year to report back to the state for funding issues. So that gives us a rating. The PCI rating, we also take into consideration the ADT, which is average daily traffic count. So we do tend to focus on the heavier collector roads and main arterials. We do El Dorado Hills tends to be more subdivision work. Cameron Park, there's a lot more of that up there. Through once you get above Placerville, we get pretty thin with the subdivision type scenario roadways, but we do have them in Pollock and Grizzly Flats, and so we'll take that data, and what we're really looking at is we'll take that. We get X amount of dollars from the state via SB1, the second gas tax. And then there's the original gas tax, which pretty much is dwindled down to just a few dollars. It's not a lot of income. We do receive quite a bit of to receive SB1. We use 1.375 million from the Red Hawk, the casino. We call it tribe money, to match what the state has given us, which is approximately SB1 is approximately, I think this year $7.1 million. And then we try to divide, we'll try to evenly, as close as we can, divide that up into the 5 supervisorial districts. Every supervisor wants something done in their area. Turnbull wants something done here. Lori, Windy, everybody wants something for their constituents. So what it average, I think it's about 2.1 per district, which is that right there. This year will go to E16 out here. So we take that data, we look at roads. SB1 cannot be spent on a PCI of 80 or above, so it has to be 79 or lower. So we'll look at the roads in each district, and based off of PCI information, ADT, known problems, there's certain things that don't pop up in the PCI rating. So we have to use just in-house knowledge. We know we have a problem area. 80% of that funding is going to go to what we call our good roads, keeping our good roads in good shape. And the only way I can really explain that theory is that logic would be to, if you had 4 cars, you got 3 that are running really well, you got 1 that's sitting there with the transmission and the engine is broke down. You're gonna invest in keeping your 3 cars in good shape before you tackle that major failed car that you have. And it may, if we were to do worst first, then we're talking, all right, it's going to be $10 a square foot on the worst first, or $3 or $4 per square foot on your roads such as E16, right? Now's a great opportunity to get out there and get it fixed before it completely fails and the costs are tenfold. So,
Are you saying that South County is the 4th car?
Yeah.
well, I can get baited.
Just, I think in picture.
He's keeping up with the good roads.
Work.
Yeah, there's no districts that's the sports car. I mean, whether you
4th.
oh, the 4th one.
Yeah.
You're somewhere in between that 3rd and 4th car. Some roads, we got some really good roads out here, and we got some really bad ones, and then we have everything in between. So we really have to look at that information that's in front of us, and where are we going to get the biggest bang for the buck? What's the most important to us? Like I said, is getting the main arterials, the ones that's going to have 10,000 cars a day versus that court up in Grizzly Flat that gets 3 cars a day. So it really drives us keeping the main arterials and collectors, and then we start working down from there. That answer the question?
What's a yes or no question?
We're
Yes.
like,
Yes.
Thank you, I love clarity.
Yes, sir.
please stand up so the microphone can get you.
I think this is a little bit of a similar question, whether it's, $10 a square foot or three, whatever your analogy was. When we drive from our place on D'Agostini and go down to Plymouth, where Amador did the roads, I think Bear Camp was the contractor. They used a different technique where they used sand and they rolled the sand with steam rolls and so forth. And when you go from our county into theirs, it's night and day. It's teeth chattering to smooth as silk. And then when it's not a derogatory question, it's really informational. Then when you did Bucks Bar, it was more like a slip seal or a skip seal or whatever. There was no, you took up some of the material and then put the oil on it and put it back down, which actually for many people made it really slippery when it was rainy and cold. Why the different techniques and what do you?
Well, there's several methods. What's going to happen on E16 is different than what happened on Bucks Bar. Bucks Bar, we came in, we did the brushing, we did the ditching, and then we came in with the contractor came in and fixed the known failed sections, and then they came in and they put down what's called a 3-layer. So they put down what's called a type 2 slurry. It's got a type 2 sand in it. And then they went over what's called a rubberized chip seal. That traditional chip seal that you would see maybe on a private road is just a standard PRMC oil. This is rubber. So the rock comes it's called 1/2 inch minus rock. That comes heated and pre-coated from the plant. And then they lay down a rubberized membrane, and then the rock is dropped on top of that, just like a chip seal. But the rock's embedded in that. The difference is most of that rock is not going to shed like a standard chip seal. And then they come over the top of that with another type 2, which has got a type 2 aggregate in it, and it's very coarse. I mean, we've done some of those types of surface treatments in the Cameron Park area. It's not smooth, it's rough. There's, that's the complaints that we get when we do that type of a surface treatment project in a subdivision. So it's very coarse, and it should, if anything, provide exceptional traction compared to just a standard overlay. Now, there's a couple sections on Bucks Bar. You see the color differences.
Yeah.
There was a high friction surface treatment placed on. No, they were identified areas where we have a higher accident rate. It's usually going to be in some type of a curve. That's a different process. That's has to be also contracted out, but that was paid for by a safety group. But it shouldn't be by any means any slicker than it previously was when it was just, I think we had a chip seal over that or something, standard chip seal. But out on E16, you're going to get what's called a wedge cut asphalt pave. And what they do is the contractor's going to come in and they're going to start at 0 at the center and then taper. The grinder will come down to 3 inches, and then they'll come back in. They'll pave 3 inches on the center and then taper into that 3-inch grind on the side. And the reason for that, it's reintroducing crown. I mean, you guys have all seen the, 10, 20,000 potholes that E16 has. And that's because we have what's called an inverted crown, where the road is like this and the water tends to channel down the center of the roadway. Now we're going to change that so the water sheets off. That way it's not sitting there and causing the damage that we see out there. We don't do the wedge cut everywhere, but we felt because of the condition and the known issues with water, that the wedge cut pave would be the better process for the road. Not that it's gonna last, any longer, we probably. Bucks Bar, we should see a lifespan of 10 to 15 years. We would probably see a 20-year out of this, and due to funding, it probably gets extended to 30 or. I wish I could say it every.
He is correct, though, when you cross over into Amador, it is an entirely different field. Any idea what it is that they're using?
They paved the road.
Yeah.
They did
Wonderful.
service treatment, so, yeah, it's nice. If you like what you see in Amador County, you're gonna love what you see here. You're also going to see, when it's restriped, it's gonna be restriped with thermal, and in that thermal is going to be what's called a wet night bead. It's a glass sphere that's dropped into the paint or the thermo that's hot applied. And it's instead of putting the raised reflective markers, what we call RPMs, which they look nice for the first year or two, and then pretty soon like, oh, there's 3 missing, and then there's or the snowplow comes by and we get a little snow, and one of my drivers will pop every button from here to the county line. So, and recessing those is very, very expensive. But I think you'll be very happy when you see the end product out here. So I hope to, I hope when it's all done, that we look at Amador County and go, there's a little bit of confidence.
Lester, please, Sam.
I can't.
No, Lester.
The other Lester, Mike.
And a little bit, we'll hear probably from Mark Egbert about some hazardous fuel reduction along Mount Autumn and Outingdale. So the question is there any opportunity to coordinate some of the work that you were describing of the brushing with the same work that's going to be done through the RCD? We work
Close together. There's a group, vegetation management group, that Ken is overseeing, and there's a great line of communication. We want to make sure that we're not doing something that the Fire Safe Council is going to do. I think when we brush Mount Outingdale, I think Mark will come back by and just enhance, go further, because I'm limited on how far out I can go. That's where Mark will take over and expand what we've done. So
I think you're 15 feet, right?
it varies. It's prescriptive right of way out there. We don't own you can't say like, I can't say, oh, well, we got 40 feet all the way through. We don't. It's gonna vary. We have the right to maintain in regards to the road, the ditch, and vegetation that's impeding or causing a safety hazard. But other than that, I have to be very careful. And as Mark can attest, you have one owner that's like, I love what you're doing. You go to the next property down, they're like, you don't touch anything. So I was just telling Mark earlier, we were brushing a road, it's called Starbuck, and it's in Cameron Park. And we actually had to call the sheriff's out for a standby because we were being threatened because we were cutting the trees that were growing out into the roadway, causing people to drive into the other lane. And yet, even though we explained that, there was no compromise with this property. So it's we have to be careful. We're going to do what we need to do for public safety, but when you get into this rural part of the El Dorado County, it becomes prescriptive. And we do a lot of PR work and try to talk to people, but I don't have the resources to go door to door. And if we start asking, people are like, well, can you trim this? And I need to perform a project that's going to last for 10, 15 years. I can't come back every year and, trim the new buds.
Mike, go ahead, you're up.
Can't stand.
That's okay.
You're good.
Have an estimate when the logging's gonna be done?
Never mind. Anyway, not involved. We're not involved at all in that. There may be permitting that goes on through the county for the logging portion of it, but timeline, I don't have that information. Can't wait till it's over. But it's, compared to what we used to have in the 90s where saw logging trucks every day, hundreds of them. So hopefully we get back to that, but they do take their toll on the road. But we used to get a considerable amount of money from logging that came directly into DOT to go back into the roads, and that is all but dried up. Unfortunately.
So Brian, talk about, because I think you alluded to it, but obviously you've got different pots of money. The work that's being done on E16, the vegetation clearance, that's part of the bigger road improvement project. But you do have a program that I think the Board of Supervisors is trying to provide some support to do some actual vegetation management work. Maybe chat about that.
I believe this last budget year, the board approved 400,000 of what's called TOT money, transient occupation tax. That's from the vacation rentals, the hotels. Tahoe just recently, 2 years ago, increased their TOT tax, and that's paid by the visitors that come in and stay at the hotel or the vacation rental. But the measure failed down here. There's a lot more vacation rentals in Tahoe, and the vast majority of TOT money comes out of the basin. Down here, it would have added about 500,000, which I see $1 on the ground, pick it up. I need every dollar I can get my hands on. So that was a little disappointing because it really didn't affect the residents of El Dorado County. It's passed on to the people coming into the county. I'm sure we'll all have our opinions about taxes, right? There's enough of them. So I can understand why that didn't pass, and county can't go out and advocate for a measure like that. We're restricted on what we can say or promote and use county funds to get that.
The lobby.
So that's a tough one, but yeah. And then we received last year, we received another CAL FIRE grant for additional brushing projects. So we have to spread that out over the entire county. So that's helpful. So the CAL FIRE, the additional from TOT, and then we have tribe money that comes in. So that all comes into the giant pot. Most people, when they call and have a complaint, their first thing out of their mouth is, well, I pay taxes. Well, I get very little of your property tax that goes to support law branch, fire, libraries, health and human services, stuff like that. So you would think a lot of that comes into the department for funding, but it does not. Unfortunately, there's too many other areas in the county that needs to be funded. That's generally where your general fund money goes. I'll take it all. Streets of gold, right? Anything else? Any other questions?
Any other questions for Brian? Will you stay with us for a little bit while
Yeah. I'll sit in the back.
while
out of the
Mark
way
does his, and then we can
everybody-
have a cookie? Please have a cookie in the back.
So now, let's get the real speed. Great.
That's a total setup, by the way. It's because he dresses better than me. He is one of the hardest working guys in the county, though, I will tell you that. I have some maps coming around. Courtney and Alex have some maps. I have the bigger maps for some of the versions of painting, but I just want to say thank you to Ken, Jan, and all the members of the Fire Safety Council, and you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Mark Egbert. I'm the district manager for the El Dorado and the Georgetown Combined Resource Conservation Districts. I'll explain what that is here in a minute. I also just want to introduce, I have my field operations manager, Alex Stevens. You may have been seeing him running around out here, setting flagging and walking on people's property and stuff. Courtney Jackson is our community engagement representative. So she's the one who works with all the landowners as we go and as we're working on the project to make sure everyone knows what's going on in the film. So we'll get this going.
Sorry, Mark, I'm almost there. Okay. Let's go. That's fine.
I don't think that was the right one, no Garden Valley.
Oh, no.
Says 417.
Oh, we just need one. Thank you.
Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Is that the right one?
Okay, yeah, that's it. You can go to this second slide.
Okay. Let me get the share screen. I know. Let me get the share screen through here.
We do a lot of these little things. So, and I don't know if the lights continue, if you can see it.
Yeah, hang on. Hang on.
There,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So here, I'm really going to talk about the South El Dorado County Fuel Reduction Project. And this grant that we got from CAL FIRE is going to be really kind of the focus of the presentation. It's over $2 million. It's a CAL FIRE grant. The grantee is the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council. The project lead is really the Ogden, Fairplay, Diamond Springs, Oak Hill, and Homo Ranch Fire Safe Councils. There are point of contacts. There are oversight committee. They're the ones who are making sure that we stay on the right track with project management, which is the RCD. And then we hire a lot of other entities to support this. We'll be dealing with the forestry, environmental, and construction.
Just the arrow. Yeah.
So you might not even know what an RCD is. So I'm from this county. I really like what he said, logging, because my family's all been in the logging industry in this county for multiple generations. And, you know, we talk about managed landscapes, and that's what this is all about, really. It's managing landscapes and managing watersheds. And, you know, the lack of management really kind of results in a lot of sort of delayed, sort of desired conditions, if you will. You see how those delayed management actions have resulted in overgrowth, you know, exclusion of fire, and really what is happening with the loss of a lot of forests. 2/3 of the El Dorado National Forest is pretty much gone. We see that the threat to communities, we've lost a community recently, and, you know, we just can't do that. You know, we have to have a coordinated response, and the RCD plays a really critical role in that. We are, you know, if you think about the days of the Dust Bowl and the days of the Great Depression, there was a session of Congress where Roosevelt had shared a bunch of pictures of the people who had gone out and taken pictures of the nation and going through the Dust Bowl. And if people didn't know that was really going on, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all the technology. And at the same time, the room of Congress filled with dust. And they declared soil and water conservation as a national priority and formed the Soil Conservation Service on that day. And but they knew that they couldn't say, like, hey, we're from the government, we're here to help. They needed, you know, travel halfway across the country and go to Missouri and, you know, walk on somebody's property who's just having a hard time. So what they did was they got drafted legislation and they gave it to states. And Division 9 of the Public Resources Code is what California titled the authorizing legislation to form resource conservation districts. The state didn't form them. What it did, it gave landowners the right to form their own government agency. And in El Dorado County, we have the second resource conservation district in the state, and that was formed in 1940. And they got together right after. It took 2 years to form, but it was declared by the Board of Supervisors in 1940 to exist. And those 5 landowners became elected officials, and they formed the Soil Conservation District. And that's what we used to be called. We changed our name to Resource Conservation Districts over time. But, you know, Soil Conservation Service and Soil Conservation Districts were really a household table name, because we were working with landowners on the land, addressing their problems, addressing resource conservation concerns. We're non-regulatory, we're non-enforcement, we don't own land, so everything we do is in partnership with somebody else. Because our origins were at the federal level, our board members are delegates of the federal government. They dictate how the Farm Bill is incorporated in El Dorado County. So we can spend money from the Farm Bill on forestry and not dairy and so forth. We're subdivisions of the state. Because our state legislation, that means we can enter into interagency agreements with state agencies and enter into good neighbor authority agreements and so forth. But we're also local special districts. That's why we have elected board members. So we're locally led and pretty much grassroots non-enforcement and a local partner. We work on an individual basis with landowners to develop conservation plans to meet individual landowners' goals. This is the heart of our organization. And if you think about it, it's really the heart of everything that should happen when it comes down to what we're trying to do with defensible space, home hardening. Everything becomes, really it's your responsibility, right? It's what the landowner does on their own property that really matters. And so we really try to help landowners meet their conservation goals on their property. We also provide,
Sorry, I jumped again.
that's right. I'll move on.
I know, Mark.
We also provide assistance on a community level. So this is a community-based project, community wildfire protection plans or project, community-based projects. So when communities get together and have a common goal, we can develop different plans that are provided for the community at large. And then we do landscape or watershed level plans. And we've got several of those in the county where we're treating thousands of acres on a landscape programmatic basis. And that's multi-jurisdictional. We can work on federal lands, we can work on private lands, we can work on tribal lands, we can work on state lands. So we feel a really interesting niche because there's not a lot of organizations that can work across jurisdictional boundaries. And this is really pre-fire planning. And we're getting into the realm of post-fire recovery a lot. We did it with the King Fire. We're doing it with the Caldor. As you mentioned, Mark Balmer's there. He's one of our close partners in Grizzly Flats. We don't want to operate in this side of the world here. This is really tough. And the recovery aspects and the sequence of recovery on a landscape level, on a community level, on an individual basis is really tough, And so the investment of time and energy and building advocacy and awareness on an individual basis and then on a community basis is really important so that we can come in, utilize the public funds that we're given to get the biggest bang for the buck and make the best long-term outcomes that we just possibly can. So this project was conceived by, members of the Fire Safety Council and others, and it's really a big project. I mean, you think about the geography of this project, all the way from Diamond Springs out by Slug Gulch. That's an amazing amount of land and a lot of roads that are covered in this. And so this was the concept, and you all have maps I provide. I hope everybody got a map, but this one isn't included. But there is the acres that are broken down. And if we look at we'll get into the acres a little bit later to get into the details of it, but it's a big area. The land use, the area is really diverse, and it ranges from rural residential to commercial to ranching, vineyards, and other agriculture, as well as institutional, like the schools and so forth, like this place. There's over 4,800 habitable structures located on more than 2,500 parcels, ranging in size from obviously from 1 acre to well over up to 250 acres. And the level of development varies from single residence on large lots to more densely concentrated areas, subdivisions, mobile home parks, and so forth. The project influence zone, which is that whole area of the map that we just looked at, is huge. It's over 87,000 acres. And so there's there's community at risk in the planning area like Diamond Springs, Elmo Ranch, Outingdale, but even other communities including Mount Auckland, Fairplace, Somerset, and Grizzly Flats, they're going to benefit from this project. So the topography of the area, most of the roads and field breaks proposed for this treatment are located on ridge lines And our plan to avoid areas where it's really steep and where there's water courses and so forth. So put that into concept of where we started planning on where we're gonna be putting these shaded fuel breaks or what type of roads we're gonna be treating and so forth. Water courses include South Fork and Middle Forks of the Cosumnes River, Perry Creek, Scott Creek, Cedar Creek, Dark Canyon Creek, Brownsville Creek, Martinez Creek, Hunch Up, Spanish, and South Fork Spanish, Black Creek, and Stony. There's a lot, we've also identified that there's a lot of man-made natural ponds and wetlands that we've had to identify. And some of those are off Mount Malcolm Road at the Spanish Creek crossing, and there's also impoundments along Martinez Creek. So we're going through, and what we're doing is we're assessing the landscape and we're identifying all these different features that are out there with the natural environment and the built environment. When you start looking at the diversity of the environment out there and how the infrastructure is intermixed with landscape, you start seeing a lot of variances out there, right? Outingdale Road, this is kind of the typical cover where you see dense hardwood mixed with conifer forest. Also, you see what we call a gallery. You know, you see a lot of this spacing in here where you have that oak hardwood component, but it's also integrated with some of the mixed conifer species as well. That's mainly in Outingdale. Fairplay, this is where we start seeing agricultural fields and mixed with gallery forests. You also start seeing moderately dense hardwoods mixed in with conifer forest as well. Mount Malcolm Road, again, you see moderately dense hardwood forest and then open grasslands intermixed with gallery forest. So you start evaluating where and what type of vegetation is where. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to isolate where the money will go to have the biggest bang for the buck, right? Obviously, we don't want to identify this grassland as a fuels treatment project area because we don't want to pay for anything to be done there because there's nothing to do there, right? Okay. Elmo Ranch Road, again, open grassland, gallery forest, and then it gets into real dense conifer forests, really quick. Slug Gulch, same thing. We've got agricultural fields, and then we've got dense conifer and grassland mix. But we also have a lot of work that was done during Caldor. And you see some of the road work that was done during that was cleared during to establish a fuel break during the Caldor fire. So we take that into consideration. We want to know what has already been done on the landscape. So we're like, okay, let's not put money where somebody's already done some management activities there, Pleasant Valley Road. This is where you get into grassland, you start getting into developed and patchy forest. You can start getting more into the dense hardwoods again. And we also have some like chaparral and brushwork, Oak Hill Road. You get residential, you start getting into this more densely residential built environment where it's surrounded by fuels, and this is like scary time. And one time I did a presentation and I showed a parcel map. I just had the parcels up there, and it showed all these quarter-acre parcels right there. And I said, "Can anybody tell me where this is?" And they're like, "Oh, that's in El Dorado Hills," honestly. And I put the vegetation layer on it, and you couldn't see the houses under it anymore because it was all treed and it was in Sierra Springs. And people live in the woods. You would never know, but there's structures and there's assets in there. Okay. So looking at the ground level, here's that dense multi-story conifer and hardwood forest component. It's hard to even see where the roads are from up above. And you start talking about road clearance and everything like that. You start talking about like what happened in Paradise, and a fire comes through here, it won't even know that there's a road there. But then you have the gallery forest, the woodland, and the vineyards and the rangeland, and it's kind of like, okay, what do you do here? What you do here is going to be different than what you do here. So whenever you're talking to a contractor about what you're asking them to do, you have to really differentiate what is where and what is what, so they can give you a really good price so that they're not charging you this rate here. You know what I mean? Or using the right type of equipment where it should be used. Again, this is where you have mixed conifer forests. Some of these are managed landscape like plantations you see over there on the right. This is a really nice scenario that we like to see here, so we really like to go adjacent to some of the landowners that are already doing management and complement what they've done by building onto it. So we look at that and try to prioritize that a little bit. This is the fire line they built during Caldor along Slow Gulch. And then you have all this residential. And this is where, you know, honestly, it's okay if we were working out here and there's nobody around and nobody's house is there and everything. When you start getting into this area, you know, 4291 says we can't go within 100 feet of your structure, other things, but there's areas that people really want us to get into, that built environment, that defensible space zone is what we call it. And, you know, while many people in the community really want us to get in there, the 10% that don't really make a lot of noise about not wanting us to get in there. And it's really tough. And that's where we really depend on the partnerships that we have with the fire safe councils, with the neighbors, you know, the neighbors talking to neighbors. This is not our project. This is your project. And, you know, in order for us to succeed, we have to have good communication. We have our communications and community engagement, you know, representative here who's, you know, Courtney, and it keeps her really busy. But I'll tell you, when we start implementation of this project, and I'll give you a timeline here in a minute, this communication thing is really going to be a shared burden. And I call it burden because we are going to get yelled at a lot. I'll tell you right now, that we are going to get yelled at for everything that we do, and we will receive very little praise. We want to demonstrate success by showing people, taking people out there, showing them what we do, and educating people and learning from them and talking to them. Not to convince them, but educate them and learn something from them too. You know, and because as we do this, we know that on an individual landowner basis, on a landscape basis, we understand that there's, you know, fuels reduction that has to happen to protect your community assets. But we also know that there's, you know, the migratory herds are stressed out right now with deer. They need shelter, they need browse. There's nesting birds. We do surveys, we have archaeological resources. There's other attributes of this landscape that we want to protect, right? And because again, when we hit Caldor, you know, we walk through the woods out there and it's very quiet. You don't hear anything, right? We've lost. We don't want to lose. We want to be productive. Productive landscapes are resilient, but they're also dynamic and ecologically diverse. So we protect waterways, we protect meadows, we protect, you know, areas where nesting birds are, and all of that. So we do our diligence, and it's really important that we do that. So when we're talking to people, we can have we have a backbone, right? We know what we're talking about, and we can share the information that we have with them, right? Okay. Again, here's the ground level, open pasture, and chaparral and shrub components. So, okay. When we first, this is right from the grant proposal. Our goal was to do 32.8 miles of roads and 398 acres. The budget for the project is just over $2 million. The Resource Conservation District for project management has $150,000. Our registered professional forester has $85,000. We have $40,000 in CEQA compliance. Our construction contractor is $1.6 million. Signage is just over $9,000. For a subtotal RCD contract of 1.8, almost 1.9 million. The Fire Safe Council Administration budget line item is almost 190 for a total of just over $2 million. And I'll say that anywhere where we don't spend any of those budget goes all into construction contractors, so we can get more acres. So time-wise, in February 2022, the grant application was submitted to CAL FIRE. On August 2022, the agreement was signed by CAL FIRE and the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council. In January 2024, the agreement was signed by the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council and the Resource Conservation District to help manage the project. In February, actually 2024, February 2024, we sent 628 letters out to try to get people to sign up and participate in the project by signing a right of entry agreement. We've done a lot of different outreach. The Fire Safe Council has gone out, spent countless hours talking to people and trying to get people to sign right of entry agreements. all the analysis that we do with evaluating topographical features, vegetation, roads, all of that, takes second place to where we have right of entry agreements. And let's say that, everybody right here is like, yes, let's do it, sign right of entry agreements. And then everybody from here over says, no, we don't want it. But then everybody here says, yes, we do. We're gonna go right here and we're gonna say, we're sorry. We can't treat, because we have a gap here. And we'd rather invest in a connected landscape treatment project and put all the money right here than to do checkerboard and scatter. You'll see kind of where we landed when I show you the maps. In February, 2024, 2023. Yeah, we completed CEQA. In May 2023, the RCD acquired the registered professional foresters. That's Mason, Bruce, and Gerard. You may see them running around with Alex as well. On May 2023, we acquired an environmental firm. We've done all the archaeological surveys for areas that we believe that the treatments are going to be going. Our cultural resources reports have been done. We've consulted with all the tribes. We actually had a meeting yesterday with a tribal organization. We have another meeting yet next week with a tribal organization. And it's really great conversations because, a lot of the sites that they want us to protect is, we could use hand crews instead of heavy equipment. And it's a good relationship that we're building. So we are hoping to, in June, June 2023, to present, the RCD has been managing getting ROEs and doing field work. So you see all the pink and blue flagging around.
Yeah.
That's our field work. So that's Alex has been running around and so forth. So April 2024, we are hopefully we are going to post the RFP. I promised Lester that if you guys approve the maps, we were going to post the RFP. So that's going out. I would say by tomorrow. So we're going to post the request for proposals to hire a contractor to start work. So that means that in June 2024, we'll start work. So then we go to the maps. And you saw from the previous conceptual maps of what we have now, this is what the first map you have in your series. You see that all of the red areas are areas that we have pretty much flagged out and right of entry agreements and so forth. The purple areas are the areas that we have in planned, but we don't have right of entry agreements. And that, again, this is the whole project. We'll go into what we did. We broke down the map into each fire safe council area. And so on this one, it's the Oak Hill Fire Safe Council. So you can see that we sent out right of entry agreements to everybody in this area. The red areas are the responses in the areas that we flagged, and the purple is the potential or desired areas that we still would like to include. So you can see that scenario that I talked about with this guy's wanting and no, and then yes, you can start seeing this. We really, we would love to be able to get everybody involved. While at the same time, we have to start something, right? And I think that if we start, people will see it, and then people will start coming on. And so we have prioritized these areas in purple. So if you or someone that is in any of these purple areas and you have those maps, please be in contact with us. We can give you more information. And maybe you can sign on. The right of entry agreements are voluntary. This is not a mandatory project. If you signed a right of entry agreement tonight, and then you thought I was, full of it, you want to terminate it, it would be terminated immediately. So there's no cost to any landowners for this project. Okay. Okay, so this is on the Oak Hill Fire Safe Council side. And you can start seeing that, you can actually, it's hard to read, but here's Oak Hill Road right here. So you can start seeing that we're actually trying to build on some of the natural fuel breaks that are out there. I think we've gotten a lot of good success. There's some areas that we would still like to add on, but yeah, okay. And Alex, if you have anything to add while you're up here, as far as your experience while you're out there, feel free. Okay. This is Occam right here, so you can see that there's some scattered areas in here. And some of the scatteredness is because there's been so much grassland or ag land that's out there. We're trying to complement that and trying to get into this community zone here. This is a nice field break right here. We'd love to get up into this area, so
Outingdale.
yeah, exactly. So again, this is more Ockham Fairplay, this is Omo Ranch Road. And then getting over into Omo Ranch Fire Safety Council here. So Omo Ranch Road, there's scattered parcels. And again, we still would like to be able to get more people to sign up so that we can complement, you know, so we don't have to leapfrog these parcels. What makes it hard is that, you know, we don't like to do survey because surveys are expensive. If we find property boundaries, that's why we have foresters. If we found a property boundary, we flag it, we take a couple of steps in and we make sure that we are on the property that we're on. We can contact the neighbor and say, have you looked at our flagging? Do you have any concerns with that? We want to make sure that we're okay. You know, even if a landowner doesn't want anything done on their property, if they sign a right of entry agreement, just in case, just for maybe we just need to get the equipment in on a road that they have. Or maybe, you know, the line is going to just jet over and kind of get a tree or a bush that they wanted to get. Maybe they can just sign the right of entry for it to help us out that way. So this is Omo Ranch right here, Ockham over there. So you can see where, you know, you've got again Slug Gulch right over here, Omo Ranch Road right here. And that goes all the way down. So you can start seeing where we've got, you know, some roadside treatments right in here, maybe a little bit more expanded area over here. But you know, Slug Gulch, these landowners right in here seem to be all on board. We still would like to get some more landowners involved that aren't. If you live in that area. And then again, this is again Omo Ranch. So you see Slug Gulch Road go a little bit farther. You know, sort of southeast coming out this way. So what those maps represent is a total of 767 acres. Ockham Fairplay has a total of 200, almost 13. Diamond Springs Fire Safety Council has 9.92 acres. Oak Hill Fire Safety Council has 358 acres. And Omo Ranch has about 115 acres. If we were to look at our budget for construction, if we got a $2,000 per acre, we could do 945 acres. So, you know, 3-4 years ago, this was not unrealistic. I still have contracts right now where I'm paying $700 an acre, $1,500 an acre, $2,000 an acre 4 years ago was expensive, especially if the economy of scale for this project, that's expensive. We are looking at, if I would not sort of, you know, not expect to get a cost of $3,000 an acre, especially if there's traffic control and other things like that along roads. Then we'll be, if it's $3,000 an acre, we'll get 630 acres. And right now we have 696 acres flagged and ready to go. So we're going to do the request for proposals. We're going to see what the proposals look like, and we'll have an evaluation committee comprised of members of the Fire Safety Council to you know, score the proposals, and we'll see how many what the costs are. And you know, we don't take low bids. We choose quality. You know, this job one, but this is kind of what we're looking at as far as how many acres we've got, how many acres can we pay for, and I will say. A lot of times people say, well, you know, you just mentioned that we want the more ROEs. If somebody comes in tomorrow and I signed an ROE yesterday, does that mean they're going to take my place? You know, and we don't really like to do that. We like to commit to the people who have already committed to us. So this allocation of acres are kind of what we're trying to stick with. If we get more money or our costs per acre lower, we can really expand out, you know. So just real quick, we are looking at processing trees 12 inches and under, right? At 12 inches at breast height right here. You know, it's a pretty good sized tree. It's a soft, you know, it's a log, right? We want to, anything over 12 inches gets really expensive, and it does get into that timber sort of classification. We'll take everything down to 4 inches. So stumps, brush, chips, everything no higher than 4 inches from the ground in depth. No piece longer than 18 inches. So our processing, it's not going to look like the park after the first year. but we're hoping that, that specification will make it look good. Where trees are gonna be separated by 20 feet, which means even if it's under 12 inches, if it's further than 20 feet away, we're gonna leave, especially if it's a healthy, thrifty tree. If it's a sick, dead, dying tree, we'll probably take it. You know, if there's dead snags, we have the option to take those too. We see that a lot of times when there's bug kill patches, we can get in there and kind of thin that out, so we'll look for those. So areas, all trees that are not removed will be limbed up to 12 feet while maintaining 33% minimum crown ratio, because we don't want to kill a tree. And again, we're going to leave about 10% brush cover unless we find that there's areas that have ecological value that we want to retain more larger patches and other sort of more sort of ecologically beneficial shrubs and trees. Okay. Again, this is kind of the same thing. We will say that all vegetation will be kept within the boundaries. We're not going to leave it in ditches. We're not going to leave it on roads or banks or trails, things of that nature. We clean up, we blow off the roads, and we don't leave things in the gutters or in the ditches. So we don't use heavy equipment on slopes over 45%. I'll show you that we are using, but we won't use them on slopes over 45%. We can use hand crews for that if we think it's an important area to treat. We're not going to pile and burn, so there won't be any burning. I know, Grizzly Flats, Mark, we're burning a lot out there because we have to, we're processing all the material, and it's just cheaper to do it that way. We avoid any sensitive resources, again, biologically, culturally, so forth. And we also have winter operation restrictions and fire policies would be adhered to. So our operational time frame is really small when you think about fire season and not working during the fire season, and also not working in the winter season for erosion and other issues. So we have migratory bird season and all the other things. So this is from, I don't have before and after pictures from this project yet, so I took it to Georgetown. This is the before roadside treatment area before we treated it, and this is after. So this is just a 50-foot prescription. So those specifications I just mentioned, this is how they're applied at 50 feet from the edge of the road. So if we look at another area of roadside that looks like this, and we look at another 200-foot prescription where we go 200 feet from the road, this is what it kind of looks like at 200. So you can see, well, this is where our perimeter shaded field breaks that specifications that we're doing on all BLM land right now. We're doing minimum of 200-foot clearance on all BLM land on property boundaries and interior roads. And 400 feet on a ridge line along a road is really, like, in my opinion, kind of a good start for, ingress and egress and trying to get that fire down, get it out of the canopy. This is a ridgeline sort of treatment. Again, this is the top of the hill, it goes down. You can see that we left the residual hardwoods and the softwoods as well. And there was a lot of brush component in here. There's so much brush that the conifer component was sort of suppressed over time. We actually thought about doing a reforestation project in here and planting some trees in here because we want a shaded field break. We don't want a lot of solar exposure, on the ground because that propagates growth really, really quickly, and you have to come in and retreat this. Maybe have the hardwood oak component come back in, and help those out. This is a sort of another shaded field break area, but you can see that it's not as cleared. So we do take into consideration hardwoods and drones, other species that we don't want. They're not our target rules. We can leave some. There's certain areas that landowners have that are important to them. They may have, grandpa's tree or a pet cemetery. They may have septic systems. They may have other things that would allow us to leave a lot more vegetation or exclude those areas. But we also, the closer we are to the house, we want to be more aggressive. You know, we want to have a 300-foot zone from your defensible space area where we're much more aggressive. There's standards for that. Once we go beyond the 300 feet to 500 feet, that's where we can start leaving much more canopy connectivity, much more understory, 10% brush, things of that nature. So we can adapt these prescriptions to how the landscape looks and the desires of the landowner too. Again, here's some more pictures post-treatment from different areas around the county. Jenkinson Lake, you can see we've got Auburn Lake trails, we've got different areas. So the desired, the prescriptions I just mentioned kind of generally have the same result. And this is in a mixed conifer stand. I put this on here because this is a maintenance activity that is prescribed burning. And I know that after we do these treatments, prescribed burning is not a tool that we can apply on the landscape in every place that we work. But I put this in here because there's other tools that we do promote. And a lot of what we can do with landowners is leave them with a management plan for their property to say, here's some recommendations on how to manage the property after this project is over. And we just give them options of saying, like, if you want to use grazing, if you want to use other mechanical options, or if you still want to use herbicides, you know, what are the impacts of that? What's the right type of herbicide? So what are the things you can use? And so the investment that's being made can't be sort of left alone, right? It's stewardship. And we want to help promote stewardship of natural resources and protect the integrity of the investment of public dollars, but also for the protection of your property and your home. So maintenance is a very, very important topic, and we want to be a part of that education process post-treatment to help people manage the land. The people like say, oh, kumbaya, all that, and then the equipment shows up and they're like freaked out. Like, wait, you didn't tell me about this. And there's a big machine with an operator that you know, looks like it just came out of the woods, which probably did. There's a variety of tools and equipment and approaches to treating fuels. You know, it's a violent process. We have a lot of fuels to treat in a short period of time, and we try to maintain cost efficiencies as well. We have qualified licensed timber operators or contractors that have the right tools to do the right job and know this area. They've worked in this area before. You know, part of the qualifications is knowing this landscape, you know, and so the right types of equipment are going to be deployed. It's a violent process. It's take a tree down in a matter of seconds or minutes. And it's just a violent process. You know, if I can show you a video, these things are loud, they're big, and they are violent. And so you have to know that that's the technical equipment that's being used. So our next step is to continue to work with landowners to assess the right of entry agreements and to answer questions for those landowners who already have submitted their right of entry agreements. We're going to continue to flag and map treatment areas. And we're going to acquire the contractor and we're going to start the project. So with that, I have my contact information and Courtney's contact information. And if there's anything that Alex wanted to add or Courtney, then or we'll take any questions.
We can throw the lights back on. So any questions?
No, that was.
Can I just real quickly add one?
Please.
Yeah, let's see, I'm from the Oak Hill Area Fire Safety Council, and worked with Mike and getting the grant application together. And there's a third element to the grant that Mark was describing, two of the parts, which was the roadside hazardous fuel reduction and also shaded fuel breaks. But a third part was also education and outreach and kind of informing people so that they'll start taking some of these same tools and skills for their own roads and or around their homes. And so encourage folks to take a look at the treatment descriptions and think about your private roads. You might see that not all of the roads are being treated, but there's a lot of private access way that would benefit from the same type of work. And that's one of the things that we were hoping was going to be an outcome from the project.
Yeah, and you know, it's a learning process. We want this to be a successful project. You know, if you don't want the work done on your property, that's okay. right? Don't feel too pressured into it. We know that, you know, your neighbors will question you enough. But it's okay. We can still come out and develop a conservation plan for you or provide technical assistance. We just want it to be successful, you know, and we will have oversight on the operations. We'll be on site as much as you need us to be. And yeah, we just, like you said, the education part is huge.
You gave a great timeline, and we did talk about getting the RFP out today or tomorrow, as soon as possible. But I think it's also important to say what the end date is. This project is not ever,
Right.
and you know, it ends in March of 2026. So all 700, or however many acres, 630 up to 900, have to be done by March of 2026 to complete our obligation to CAL FIRE.
That's a really good point. And one of the things that the evaluation committee, who's going to be looking at the proposals, is going to look at is to say, do we hire one contractor or four? You know, well, we got four really good ones. Maybe we hire all four and we put them in each different area, you know, and that's a way that we can expedite the time frame. I will say that a lot of people say, you know, look backwards and say, oh, it's taken forever, it's taken all this. But if you rush these projects, you lose trust of the landowners, you know, you lose confidence, and if you lose them, they're gone, you know. And if we get contractors out there and they start running amok and they're not, don't have appropriate oversight, then we're going to lose the advocacy of the community, and we just don't want that to happen. So we've taken care. We still have enough time to implement the project within the time frame of the grant. We would love to give CAL FIRE the word that we completed it with a year remaining, and maybe they'll give us more money. So, but you're absolutely right. End time frame is hugely important, and we don't want that. We don't want to end there, but we also don't want to rush to get it done and make mistakes too.
So where would you be starting? You have
So,
5,000.
you know, a lot of times the contractors they have to present an operations plan, and that operations plan is taken into consideration. The prioritization of where the areas that will start will come from the fire safety councils to the RCD, and that will come after we look at the operations plan that's proposed by the contractors. So we'll balance that out. We'll know afterwards. I will hopefully answer that question in another meeting prior to actual operations start.
Well, you gave me the path. That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I want to thank both Mark and Brian for coming. Any other questions for Brian? Shall we cogitated on roadways and
I have one question. I've noticed on Mount Ogden Road, all your brushing has left some good logs on the side of the road. Are you expecting Mark to clean all those up?
We talked about that too.
We might have to take this outside.
Like,
20 pallets of wood and still I eyeball it when I drive by. I need it.
Generally,
Yeah.
we leave that for the public will come and pick up those pieces, so anyone that wants to drive by their pickup, pull over safely and grab that, that's fine.
Yeah, I will admit, it's very nicely stacked and well cut. You know, they're beautiful pieces. of
Yeah.
work.
So generally, we'll come back after a period of time and remove what has not been picked up, so.
It'll get taken.
so for
Especially up in this area.
Yeah.
For those of you on Zoom, the question was where the fuel reduction along Mount Ogden Road has occurred. There are some nice stacks of firewood sitting on the side of the road, and what happens to those. And Brian shared that generally they disappear from the side of the road from folks who need firewood, and then if that doesn't happen, the DOT will come after a reasonable amount of time and take care of that and pick that all up. So if you're looking for small firewood, don't do it now, but go ahead and get that. we can't thank you enough, Brian, for coming out and talking to us. We've been interested in what's going on. We're starting to see some work occurring here, so very happy to know what the plan is and for you to share your thoughts about what's going on the roads here. Mark, can't thank you enough for coming out and sharing what's going on with the grant. We are all interested in what's going on with the grant, all of our fire safe councils here. So thank you. And if there's something we need to do for you, please let us know. We're getting ROEs. Sounds like ROEs is everybody's focus, right? So thank you very much. So give them a look.
Mark, there's been a couple of requests for your PowerPoint, so I don't know if that okay, can we make that available? We will do that.
Thank you. That's wonderful. You want to shake up some?
Kelly, you've upgraded to a sports car now.
Yeah.
All right, so getting back into the rest of our agenda, before we do so, if you are new to us, back on the back table is the wildfire preparedness workbook. Please take a copy home with you, particularly of interest on page 18, I know, is the assistance programs that the Fire Safe Council, the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council offers, chipping, lightly talking about defensible space at the moment because our program is awaiting some funding, and our hazard tree program. So please take this home, look at this. There is also Code Red Rage, whatever we're calling it today, in here. And defensible space zones, evacuation orders. It has a lot of great material in it, what to put in an emergency kit. So please grab one of those off the back table if you don't already have one. Moving on, this is not how our normal setup is, so we're going to do this in presentation style. Most of the council is sitting over here. And thank you for your patience tonight as we kind of went off script to have these presentations. Did everybody have the opportunity to look at the meeting minutes for last month from the council? Any concerns or amendments to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Meeting minutes approved. Treasurer's report. Did everybody have a chance to look at the treasurer's report? Any questions on the treasurer's report? For those of you who haven't looked at it, we have roughly around, I think around $1,800 in our bank account. Any other questions on the treasurer's report? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair and vice chair's report. Again, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. This was a big deal for us to have these two gentlemen take time out of their evening and come out here to South County to visit us. And it's only worthwhile for them if we're all here to hear what they say. So it's really, we want to thank you for coming out and joining us this evening. Mike, anything from the vice chair?
Still in Spain and Czech.
Mike's son got married in Spain, and I'm just concerned that he's over here in his wild wondering.
Because she didn't let me stand outside.
Spain, there was something wrong. I have deferred because of the presentations and our time this evening. All of our updates to a future meeting. Presentations are important, so we wanted to make sure that we have plenty of time. Item 8, unfinished business, our council work plan, and I'm kind of going through these rather rapidly. Our council work plan for 2024, we have 2 upcoming projects. The first is the Pioneer School project. John, do you want to provide an update on the Pioneer School project?
Okay, real quick, John Hess, council member. So we're in the go, May 4th. So far I've got at least 4 volunteers. And we have a backup professional climber, because this is a project to remove cables from an old obstacle course that's at Mountain Creek School, which is a tremendous liability for the school now. So I think it hasn't been used for a long time. So we're going to remove those cables. We did a trial cut, just a couple of days ago, it worked beautifully. And so the hard work is gonna be removing anchors from trees. It's gonna be very interesting, but we're gonna get together at 10 o'clock on May 4th. And, with the equipment and personnel.
So if you're interested in helping John and his crew of 4 volunteers with this project, please connect up with John or send an email to me and I will connect you up with John. This is our second project with Pioneer School. We really appreciate our relationship with them. So we're looking forward to a very successful day, and John has insurance.
Chris is right here.
Chris has been working with us on that. Chris is now part of our council.
Again, for us. Yeah.
The second item that we're work plan item for the council is we are going to hold another Green Waste Day. We held one in November at here last November. This time it will be up at the other end of our council at Brewster's parking lot, the post office parking lot. We've secured the venue. We've secured the dumpsters, which will be there on June 1st and 2nd. We are working to secure a chipper, a chipping company who helps us with chipping all that material. And we will be looking for volunteers to help us work on that day. John, you are still going to offer signs on that day.
That's right.
If you need an address sign, John makes them on site. They work his little fingers to the bone. And you can get a reflective address sign from John.
Okay.
Yeah, he's your guy. He's your guy. Their items. So every year, the council holds an election for its officers. We are at that point in time of the year to have that discussion. John is our poor John's been picked these items. And Makona Hargo, who is not here with us this evening, is our election committee. John, update on the election.
We have 3 positions, the chair and the treasurer, that we do not have candidates for yet. And so we've got 4 positions in total: chair and vice chair, secretary and treasurer. So we're still looking for candidates for those 2 positions. I did, because it's getting late, we have to have a ballot for the next meeting, ready for the council to vote on. So absent a candidate, we may have to, talk about some options. So I sent those out to the council by email, and the board can consider that. We might have a candidate for treasurer, but right now we're still looking for the chair.
Thank you. If anybody is interested in any of the 4 positions, the 4 board positions are the secretary, the treasurer, the vice chair, and the chair. Please let John know these are open elections. So if anybody is interested in any of those, but in particular, we're looking for a chair. I've been the chair now for 3 years, and it's time for somebody else to take this role for a while. So thank you very much, John, on that. And then item 8C is the updated council boundary map. And I already shared with that earlier that it is in progress and we're cleaning up parcel edges. New business for future, we have 2 items of new business. The future council presentations, our May meeting, we are very fortunate to be prepared to do a wildfire season kickoff. We will have the Pioneer Fire Chief Dave Witt here to talk about fire season update, along with Chief Dave Wood from CAL FIRE. So we'll have a fire season update from both of those gentlemen, fire weather outlook, all information on that. And Mark, you offered, Chris, you offered, and to talk.
I'll send that email out tomorrow and see if yes, better.
I also Troy sent me an email as well today, so okay, I'll connect you if you and Troy want to connect him. Send him.
And we do have Scott Bear on Zoom right now. So
So we have connections all the way around. So yes, if we could have someone come and talk about Raven evacuations,
Perimeter.
the update on,
Perimeter.
perimeters. That would be wonderful. So thank you. And we will connect up on that. So please be watch for an announcement on that, but that will be at our May council meeting, which is again, the third Wednesday. Don't look at Tuesdays, the third Wednesday. Again, date
15.
17th,
15.
15th. Our June meeting will be a business. We've now had 2 presentation meetings in a row, so we do need to have a June business meeting, and it will primarily be election results at that meeting, and then updating our council partner reports that we normally do. So with that, I'm opening up to public comment. Yes, ma'am.
I live in Outingdale, was very, very excited that the fire department was gonna come in and do inspect. I'm a defensible space evaluator. And they're passing people for showing any effort whatsoever. They're real nice guys. And I talked to them, I said, well, you should have mailed me on this and this and this. And they're like, well, we're just trying to acknowledge where people have made any kind of start in anything. And I know there are other houses, Mike's and another neighbor's. She's got a shrub that's impinging on her deck. It's halfway into her deck. She got 100% no violations. I have bark in the front of my house. I've started raking it out. Didn't comment. He commented that my rosemary was just absolutely beautiful. It's too close to the house. You know, they're not checking for reflective signs. They're not checking for rain gutters. They're not checking for propane tanks. They are saying that they're not going to tell anybody anything about cutting trees because there's no money for that. They're just telling people to limb up. But out of the handful of people that I know they've done evaluations on, everybody got 100% and no violations. So it's kind of just, and I asked them point blank, why? And they said, well, you know, people don't really like to be told what to do, and they're trying to appreciate if anybody's made any kind of effort. My next door neighbor is 86. You know, he took care of us. So they're like, oh my God, what he did for 86 is amazing. Everything is fine, 100%, no violations. Not even mentioning something like, you know, you have flammable things under your deck. So it's kind of a joke.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I am too. I live there.
I know. Sorry to hear that because we were hoping for.
Super nice guys, but they're not all the things that we were taught as defensible space evaluators, all the key components. Not a word.
And if they didn't have any information, you know, like really helps me go, tell somebody, well, you should remove these leaves or whatever, you know, they didn't do any of that. They didn't even walk around my house, like, you know, I was waiting for them and they just came up to me, looks good. Okay.
Yeah, it's a joke.
When Wendy and I did John's place, we even found something the matter there, and that's saying something. Just poor John.
Be pristine.
So this is it's not good feedback. This is important
This is good.
feedback
Yes.
because you're short stopping a whole bunch of things here, and you're getting what we're listening to is going to go right back to the source. I guess I can share that this is not the first series of comments that we've been taking on it.
I asked them, I said, I am an evaluator. You know, these are, and they're like, well, we just want everybody to feel good.
She doesn't look so good right now.
You worked so hard to find out that it's gonna be me. I was so excited they were coming.
Yes.
So there are, and we've talked about when we do our Fire Safe Council, Eldorado County Fire Safe Council and County updated our meetings. So the Board of Supervisors did approve 2 weeks ago now, or a week and a half ago, a number of positions for the county's Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resilience. And 2 of those positions are for defensible space inspectors that will actually work for the county program under Richard Galvin, if anybody's met Richard yet. Currently the county is contracting out, as I think folks that maybe came here that night saw that, the West Slope is being contracted with El Dorado Hills Fire Department. And the basin is being contracted with the Lake Valley Fire Department because the county didn't have capacity to engage in the program, but they do now. And so there's a bunch of things in play, but going forward, these kinds of inspections, at least on behalf of the county, will be conducted by the county and directly through this program. And there's a kind of a different look at how that's gonna happen. So this feedback's important because we've been trying to share the input we're getting in, and there's other things coming. We won't take up the time tonight, but maybe one of our next meetings, Janet and I can share what's happening with a BLM grant that the county's received and how that will be increasing some capacity. But there's going to be a lot going on out there, and so this is really what we need to hear because we're taking this back to share with those folks that this maybe is not,
They did my house last week, and then I was walking my dog and saw them today, and they were on Winter Way. And I said, so if you found anybody with an issue? And there were a couple of houses on that particular street that they said, oh yeah, we had a couple comments. So, but before that, it seems like they're just passing everybody 100% no violation.
Say,
And I think it would be a big shock when the county comes in. Like when we do it, there's tons of things you're finding, and that's what people are really looking. Well, because people ask us,
So what the philosophy is not to be heavy-handed, right? And come in, I see Mark's got his hand, so I'll make sure I capture him. But the object's not to come in and be heavy-handed, but at the same time, we're not doing anybody a service, right? So it's we want to see is progress, but that means you notice them on what they need to work on, then we follow up with follow-up inspections to see what progress they're making. This
What they're
isn't
saying now is doing what you're doing.
Everyone
No
gets a
suggestions. And it would be a good idea if they handed out, information about the reflective signs.
well, we have a bag
Yeah.
information we have that.
well, we're big picture. We've been hearing a lot of all of that, and so the Defensible Space Working Group and the agencies that are working with the Fire Safe Councils are coming up with some standardized materials to hand out because what we're finding is everybody's kind of doing it differently. We've definitely raised the bar for people engaging, but what we're finding is it's very disparate. So yeah, I think this has been a year of learning a lot since we've trained 70 evaluators. You're out there actually seeing firsthand and
You can even
engaging.
walk the road without going in this.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just say thank you for the feedback because it's
very
good.
well.
And remember, turn over to Mark on.
turn over, do Mark and then I'll come back to you.
Sorry.
Peggy.
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to the meeting tonight. I really do appreciate it. And it's a lot of good stuff. And it's also great hearing how another chair runs a meeting. And well, no, don't laugh. I can learn a lot from you guys. So thank you. I just need some clarification. The young lady that was talking about having her property evaluated. So were those defensible space evaluators from the Fire Safe Council or were they CAL FIRE?
They were coming from El Dorado Hills Fire Department.
Oh, okay. So they were actually defensible space inspectors then.
Yes.
That would evaluate for 4291.
Yes.
It just kind of surprised me to hear that because when CAL FIRE came through Grizzly several years ago, they were, I wouldn't say the word was heavy-handed, but they definitely let people know that that they needed to fix something, and I know that the defensible space evaluators from our Fire Safe Council, they're pretty honest with people. They obviously, we're just volunteers just like the rest of you are, and having going out and helping our neighbors, tell them what needs to be done, and you don't have to do it for us, but eventually you may for an enforcing agency. So I think based upon what I heard tonight, it sounds like we're being tougher on the people than the people that were actually out at your residences. And, you know, if everybody's getting 100% based upon, you know, with some of the things that I've heard, that they're not really doing people any justice. I mean, they're being nice, and people like nice firefighters. I'm sure Ken will tell you that. But
Nice cute firefighter.
yes,
Yeah, cutie.
but still, like, you know, it's just kind of surprising to me. So I guess, you know, I'm sure Ken will bring this back to through up through the chain at the county level, but I just needed some clarification, and that kind of surprised me. So thank you.
Well, if we come in and do a defensible space evaluation, and they're like, we've got 100%, we don't have to do anything.
This is exactly what we've heard in other fire stations.
Yes. Yeah, and it is, yes.
So Sharon's.
Peggy,
I want to say just the opposite. Cal Fire was at my house a couple of years ago, and we're at my girlfriend's place this year. Yes, they were kind, but they said, you need to think about, they phrased it nicely. They gave her a piece of paper, I have one from 7 years ago, and Sand Ranch inspectors came to my house. And they were absolutely outrageous. They were wonderful. I mean, I had no one. And Lucas Shepherd's been to my house, you know, and Luke said, I'm his mother-in-law. Soffits was a joke. Right. That's Lucas Shepherd. But I mean, I found just the opposite of what you're saying. I've been very pleased with inspectors, and I would like a little clarification on defensive space, as we all would,
Yes.
because the changes at the county level. But no, I've had good, and I'm not perfect at all.
Well, I think what's important to understand is there's different organizations, there are agencies doing, and this is what we're actually really working hard on. So this coming year, CAL FIRE and the county are teaming up, and there'll be postcards coming out that they're still trying to finish it. But it's a whole step forward. The county's identified some areas, CAL FIRE has identified their areas, and they're all going to be listed on the same postcard. So those folks will all be getting those mailers. What's happened is the county didn't have inspectors, but it has a program. So the state, when CAL FIRE goes out, they inspect to 4291, Public Resources Code. The county's inspecting to the Defensible Space Ordinance. And so the county didn't have inspectors, and so they contracted with local fire districts to do it for them. And so what we're seeing is this discrepancy, if you will, in how the inspections are being conducted. So listening to this feedback, it's really important, because as the county really builds its program, it's really sort of pulling those inspectors, they're hiring their own, they're coordinating with CAL FIRE, so they're trying to make a very similar kind of inspection. Similar philosophy, they are nice, but at the same time, they're going to tell you what you need to do to fix it. And then they're going to come back and see how you're doing.
Yes.
And that's where we want compliance. We want to help people get there. But if we don't tell them what's wrong, they can't fix it. So, but yes, what we're focused on, this is an isolated, it's a program issue that the county is working through.
I just wanted to say, in balance to this bad report, I've had nothing good.
good.
We want good.
Question.
I tried to get on your agenda, I don't think it's successful or not. I'm with Omaha Ranch Fire Safe Council, I have a joint proposal between Omaha Ranch and your council. Can I have a couple minutes to be?
Sure, go ahead.
My name is Christopher Carr, and I'm with Omaha Ranch Fire Safe Council. And in the last 3 years, we've installed 2 40,000 gallons of water and hydrants, one on Slug Oaks Road and one up on Omaha Ranch Road and Mill Road. And a couple of days ago, we wanted a third one, which is actually in your area at the intersection of Omaha Ranch Road and Fairplay. And we've located the thing, and we're wondering if you wanted to help participate together with us in making that a reality. So
I think we need to have a little more information on what it would cost. So if you could send me an email and let me know what it is you're actually asking to do.
Okay.
And be associated, then I can and share that. But I know Charlotte's been sharing with us what you've been doing there with water tanks, and it sounds like a really good program.
Yeah. I will do that tomorrow.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Great signs that I'm seeing all over Mount Autumn. There's-
John's little finger don't work.
So that, and to add to that, John is pre-planning for the money that we got from the Westlow Foundation for putting permanent signage on both ends of E16 at the boundaries, but I guess we have to decide where that other boundary really is for the other sign, but so we will have some permanent signage up. And he's working on size of lettering and all of that, so I know that the council's been driving around looking at the signs outside John's house, so. Appreciate it.
Scott Telfer from
Scott.
Westlaw.
From Westlow. Your hand is up, Scott?
He's on mute.
There he is.
Oh, he's got it on mute.
Oh, he,
Oh, Scott, you're muted. There it goes.
Chris, let me know exactly how much that water tank's gonna cost. I got your message and just send it to me in an email and follow up on your grant, Janet. It's in process, so it will be funded real soon.
Perfect, thank you so much. Bill sent it. Perfect, thank you so much. All right, moving on to council comments. Any comments from the council? John?
As many of the council members know anyway, that we are still looking for new council members. And I'd like to introduce a potential council member. I will probably mess up on her name. Whitney Oriole Heights?
Yes.
Got it, okay. Anyway, she'll tell you a little bit about herself.
I'm new to June of last year. I'm mom of 4 daughters, ranging from 12 to 5. And I've also been a law enforcement wife for the past 16 years. My husband and I are high school sweethearts and now the rest. My background in business is actually in aerospace. I used to run an aftermarket department for a aerospace telemetry link company. I used to run program management and for that. So, yeah, accounting is my background. So
Very good.
So this would have to be for the council a 2-step process. She's now introduced herself. Our bylaws say the next meeting that we can bring her in, although last meeting we got very excited about all of our new members and brought them in early. So
Well, the bylaws have responsibility. Last meeting, there was a motion made and elected to have 2, 3.
Too bad.
One, turn 2.
Open the door now.
Yes.
So Jane has the floor. Everybody.
to go. Make a motion on Friday here. Wait, make a motion to add Whitney to as a councilor. No, I'm a big fan.
I see, I got second.
Second. The council, all in favor? Opposed?
Doors.
Whitney, welcome to our. Okay, it will take me a while to spell and pronounce.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. And that, hopefully that map finds its way out. Oh, okay. No, you're getting tired.
Yeah, shut the door so that he can.
Very excited. And then, so,
Not yet.
you are in the treasurer's position, please talk to John. Please talk to John and the adjutant. She's back. Elections. Very excited to have you aboard.
Thank you.
If anybody didn't get a Jason out the wildfire roundup.
Oh, that'd be great.
Last sign-in sheet, from the last meeting, do you have it? So I can add the new emails to my list. So I have just under 300 that I sent out. See, yeah. So we are adjudicating emails, between I am and John and you and I, we all need to get the same list, so. Email, that's something we need to work on to adjudicate, so we're all working with the same list. John's on his head, we've already talked again about that, so. And I will believe. Yes, ma'am. There's an old Facebook page from Auckland Temple Fire Safe Council and a new one. Initially, the old one was set up to be private. And the new one is now public. So if anyone is on the old Facebook page, please search out the other the new Facebook page and get all of our information that way. I have archived the old one, which and we can't create posts or like or comment or anything. I haven't figured out how to delete the Facebook page yet. I tried to go through the process and I wanted to go person by person. But then it started to look like I was deleting them from the new Facebook page. So it's archived and hopefully that will pause it enough and people will be redirected to the other page. So. Is there a way to redirect from that other page to? Well, Mary put in information on the page, but there are a lot more members on the old one that may or may not have the information. Well, I'm super excited that we migrated to a public page. Yeah, rather than
It is very good. I was excited to be that. Oh my God, this is really good.
Thank you. It's all these ladies. They do an awesome job. Yes, they do. So thank you, Jane, and I know Mary's worked on it as well. But if you ever figure out how to delete that old page, let me know. I know some.
I don't think it has.
Candidate page. So, Facebook makes it really hard. And Mary thought there was a way that. Anything else from the count?
I just want to remind everyone to sign in so we can get your email, so we can email you everything.
I want to thank John and Shyla for bringing goodies.
Yes.
Wonderful that we had some snacks in the back of the room. John, thank you. You've been bringing them several times. For this and thanking you. That it's always appreciated. Really excited to have everybody here. So with that,
Who gets the timesheets?
Timesheets. There are Mike gets it behind you, Mike Net. For anybody who doesn't know, we collect timesheets for fuel reduction work or public outreach work that you may do on behalf of the council. There's timesheets in the back. We use those to maintain our Firewise designation. We have so much work every year that we have to do to meet that designation, and we collect that by timesheets. So there's some timesheets in the back of the room. If not, there's a timesheet on our website.
You can do it for this meeting too.
Yes, this meeting counts. This is 2 hours worth of time towards our Firewise designation.
That was that just got added, but I keep a timesheet and have for several years. So I go ahead and turn it in, even though we're not.
So
We're not in the Firewise community, but we're in the council now.
You're in the council, you're not in the Firewise community. So this year, your time would not count.
Oh.
What we do next year, we are due for our assessment. At which point we will broaden the boundary of our Firewise community, then we would launch yours. If you want to keep your folks, or get them acclimated to submitting timesheets, you can submit them and we'll just set them aside, but, that way they're able to get into the habit of it. But, we won't be able to count them for this year.
Is count like coming to the meeting or talking to people about those things? Can you do that? Does that count as part of the times that we can use now?
I would say meeting touch.
Oh, the meeting times absolutely
Meeting time,
count.
that's-
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you're doing anything
It's
in
the
gate,
work-
yeah,
Just
you're,
volunteering to.
yeah.
Volunteering for the.
Yeah, if you volunteer for any of our activities, that time counts. Absolutely. It's the vegetation work on your property that's outside of bounds.
Yeah.
Well, gang, thank you so much. We had a long meeting. Appreciate you being.
I didn't really-